How's it going, everybody? It is Dennis, and we're back with another video talking about yield max ETFs once again, specifically on AMZY. If you watched my last video, you know that I mentioned that we're going to be talking about AMZY. We're going to be talking specifically, doing a huge breakdown of every single share I bought, all the price I bought it for, how much I put in, and what has the return been so far for those shares purchased. So like I mentioned before in the last video, I've decided to go through all the ETFs that I can, go through all the data I could find, and go ahead and show you guys transparent as much as I can be of every single purchase, the time of purchase, how much I've received, and what it's currently looking like with percent return and how much I've made so far. So, of course, being transparent as possible with AMZY, as you can see right here, it is 7.45% of my portfolio. It's 376.5 shares, and I currently have a market value of $6,059.78, and we're down roughly 8.7%. I've been actually buying more of AMZY, and you'll see that in the spreadsheet. The reason being because the maintenance ratio is 25%, so it's quite cheap when it comes to taking out margin compared to other ones like Tesla, which is 45%, Gooby, which is 40%, AMD, which is 45%. Apple, which is 40. All these other yield max ETFs have high maintenance requirements or maintenance ratios, and therefore AMZY is one of the better ones with the 25%, unless you're, of course, you're looking at the weeklies like YMAX, YMAG, and others. So also looking at dividend history, this is all the dividend history for AMZY. Of course, I took all this dividend history and was able to put it into my spreadsheet and use that to calculate every single share's returns, and you'll see that in a second. And of course, we have Seeking Alpha here, where we could see that since the time I started purchasing, which was September 5th of 2023, AMZY had returned 60.16%, and S&P 500 has returned 39.29%. And with that, we're going to go ahead and see right now what has my return been in that same time frame, of course, of holding AMZY. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in so to not show too much data, and we're going to go ahead and show you guys breaking down bit by bit of every single purchase I made, amount of shares I purchased, what type of purchase it was, and what is my total cost into AMZY and how much I've returned so far. So technically, what is that? We're going on to 2 years of owning AMZY, a little bit under 2 years. So a little bit under 2 years, let's see how AMZY has done. So our first purchase, like mentioned before, was on September 5th as a cash purchase of 30 shares of $21.51, and that cost us $645.30. Share value growth or decline has been negative $162.60. We have earned $448.95 from those dividends so far, and that leaves us with a total gain of $286.35 or 44.38% return. Of course, like I mentioned before, all the data comes from, of course, this, which is our average cost. This is divided by, of course, how much I bought, and then the shares, of course, all that math, and that's $19.77. And we have live data for current share price. So this is as of market close on Thursday, $16.09. And of course, this is all the data for all the distributions that I've taken from YieldMax themselves and all the calculations I've done to make it easier for myself to calculate that. So now you know how those numbers are, where those numbers are coming from. We could continue. So that was our first purchase. We got $286.35 from those 30 shares of profit and a 44.38% return. On September 18th, 2023, this was our first dividend, which we reinvested back into a measly 0.66 shares. And from that, our average cost was $21.17. We paid $14.13. That was our dividend, $14.13 at the time. And that's currently down $3.39. We've made $9.67 from dividends, and $6.28 is our profit of a 44.47% return. Then we have another purchase of 9/22/2023, so September 22, 2023. We had a cash purchase of 50 shares. We actually had two cash purchases of 50 shares, so in total it was 100 shares purchased. We had an average cost of $20.39, average cost of $20.14, and we had $1,019.50 and $1,007 invested. For those 50 and 50, we've lost negative $215 and negative $202.50 of value. But we've earned $724.70 of dividends and another $724.70 of dividends from each one respectively, giving us $509.70 in growth for the first 50 shares and $522.20 of profit for the second half of 50 shares, giving us 50% and a 51.86% return. We move on. We have our second reinvestment that we made was in October 16, 2023. 4.1389 shares, $20.01 was our average cost. We got $82.82 for our dividend. We lost $16.22 of that value, and we made $57.37 from those dividends, leaving us at $41.14 earned in total profit, 49.68% return. We have another cash purchase of 50 shares in October 18th, so 2 days after this dividend we received, of average cost at $19.86, $993 invested. We've lost $188.50 of that value. We got $693.01 in dividends. $504.51 is our total return for those purchase of shares, and we got a 50.81% return on those 50 shares we purchased. We move on. November 16, 2023, we got another reinvestment that we did at 4.83 shares, $20.81 average cost, $100.52 was our dividend. That has lost so far $22.80 in value. We have made $64.32 in dividends, and that was a $41.52 profit so far at 41.31%. Moving on, we have another reinvestment, so no cash purchases for these next couple months. In December 13, 2023, we had another reinvestment of $4 shares in 0.2392, and that was an average cost of $20.98. $88.94 was our dividend. We lost $20.73 of value from that dividend and reinvestment. $54.46 how much we received in dividends, and $33.73 is how much we made in profit, and that's a 37.93% return. We continue. In January 9th, 2024, we got another reinvestment, 3.4289, $20.82 average cost, $71.39 was our total dividend and how much we reinvested. We lost $16.22 of that value. $42.79 is how much we earned in dividends so far, and $26.57 is our total gain so far, and 37.22% is our total return from those reinvested shares. As you can see, we did not reinvest any shares for the month of, February. Of course, in the next month, we then had a reinvestment on 3/8/2024. We had a reinvestment of 5.6958 shares, $22.26 was our total average price, and we got a total dividend, I guess, of $126.79, which was reinvested back in, and that was $35.14 lost so far in value from those $126.79 reinvested. We received $63.52 from those shares, and our total profit is $28.38, or 22.38%. We move on. As you can see now, reinvestments have stopped. Now it is all cash. Of course, some of these could be reinvestments, but I don't know 100%. That is because I don't know what, I could not backtrack to, of course, my own knowledge and idea of what I was doing at the time, but it could be that some of these are reinvestments. I was doing a 50-50, so 50% reinvest, 50% keep, or 25% reinvest, 75% keep. So some of these may be reinvestments, but I'm labeling them as cash because they were not automatically drifted back in. So starting in June, we have a cash purchase. So we can see from the 3rd month to the 6th month, we did not have any reinvestments or any purchases. We started purchasing back in June 17th, 2024. And we had 10 shares purchased at $21.74 at $217.40. That's so far lost $56.50 in value. We've gained $85.29 in dividend, or $28.79 in profit, and a 13.24% return. Then we had another purchase we actually had 2 purchases in July of the 15th of July. We had 2 cash purchases, 20 and 20, actually 3. We had 3 purchases of 20 shares. It seems like I was not so sure what I was doing at the time. We couldn't decide yet if I wanted to go full in. So we had a 20 and 20 and 20. So for 3 parts of 20s, we had an average cost of $21.66, $21.65, and $21.64. Possibly that could have been a Robinhood error that it purchased at 3 different lots, but I'm not too sure because I'm not sure why I would be purchasing at only 1 cent difference. But like I said, it could be a Robinhood issue. or information issue or data issue due to the different 1 cent differences. So we had $433.20, $433 in total, and $432.80. We've lost $111.40, $111.20, and $111 strong. And in total, we've earned $155.27, $155.27, and $155.27, all the way down the board. We've so far gained $43.87, $44.07, and $44.27 for each of the 20 shares. And that's a 10.13, 10.18, and 10.23% return. We move on. So we go down to August. Let's try and go down, not too much. All right, so we're up here. August 9th, 2024, we did another cash purchase of 7 shares. I'm assuming this was probably a reinvestment, but that's just my assumption. We got $18.75 our average cost on those 7 shares. $131.25 is how much we put back in. $18.62 have so far been lost in value. $51.03 is how much we've earned in dividends. And $32.41 is how much we made in profit, or 24.69% return. We move on. October 28th, 2024, we bought more cash, $8, $18.92 was our average share on those 8 shares. We paid a total of $151.36. $22.64 was how much we lost in value. $58.32 how much we've gained in dividends, and 35.68%, or $35.68 is how much we earned in profit, or 23.57%. We move on. September 9th, 2024, we bought another 5.5 shares. Like I said, this probably is reinvestments of dividends, but I cannot confirm or deny it, so therefore I'm just going to label it as cash. So 5.5 shares was purchased, $18.89. Average cost, $103.90 is the total cost, and $15.40 is how much we've lost in value. We've made $36.49 in dividends, or $21.09 in profit, of 20.30% return. Then we have November 21st, 2024. We have a cash of 10 shares, $18.99 average cost, or $189.90 invested. $29 has been lost in value, $46.98 has been returned in dividends, and $17.98 is our profit of 9.47%. We have then December 19th, 2024. We have a cash purchase of $13, cash purchase of 13 shares, average cost of $19.08, $248.04 total invested, $38.87 loss, $49.86 returned in dividends, or $10.99 in profit, of a 4.43% return. We then have a couple months, once again, 5 months that we were not reinvesting dividends back in, or purchasing in general. And in May 20th, 2025, we started purchasing again, so recently. I bought 38 shares in cash, $15.87 average cost, $603.06 total invested. We actually gained $8.36 of value on those shares, and our total return in dividends was $45.05, and our total return is $53.41 in profit, or 8.86%. We then bought more shares. And of course, June 9th, 2025, we bought cash, 6.5 shares, $15.94 average cost, $103.61 total payment, 97-cent gain, not too much, $3.84 in dividends return, and $4.81 total profit for 4.64%. And then we have June 16th, 2025, more cash purchases of 8.5 shares, $15.99 average cost, $135.92. We've down 85 cents on this, or actually no, we're up 85 cents. The color is just incorrect. We're up 85 cents on that, and that's $5.02 in dividend return, or $5.86 total profit of 4.32%. And lastly, I know this is a long segment here, but lastly, we have July 8th, 2025. So this month, cash, 7 shares, $15.94. Average cost, $111.58, $1.05 of total gain. No dividends just yet on these shares, and $1.05 is our total gain of 0.94%. So now that we have all this data, right, and we take a look at AMZY on that same time frame, of course, this is, hope that 60.16% is if you went all in at once. and just gain throughout the time. I obviously did not go in all at once. I went in increments. There was times where I didn't reinvest. There was times where I did reinvest. So of course my returns will probably be less, or they could be more, but they're probably less. Well, I know my data, but I'm just letting you guys know. So that's 60.16% return. The S&P returned 39.29% in the same time frame. How did I do with my AMZY investment? Well, let's scroll down. Total share count at the end of the time, or right now as a recording, is 376 shares, 0.5, as you guys saw before. Total cash invested is $7,444.39, or reinvested as well. We've lost so far negative $1,386.50 in value. Our total dividends received was $3,731.17. And of course, total profit and value loss was $2,344.67 in profit. And the percent of that profit of total investment is 31.5%. Of course, this could be larger if we did not count for the reinvestments. If we did not count for reinvestments, then this could be larger. But of course, it's very minuscule because it's 4 shares, 4 shares, 4 shares, 3 shares, 5 shares, and 0.6 shares. Not that big of a difference. Not enough to make really a huge difference in total percent return, so I'm keeping it there. But 31.5% return is how much I've returned on AMZY with how I've been purchasing it. So not going all in at once. If you went all in at once on September 5th, 2024 or 2023, you would have a 60.16% return currently, and that's with reinvestments back into the fund. Of course, there was times where I was not reinvesting back into the fund. Therefore, I was not purchasing back into it. And also there was times where I was taking that money out of the fund and putting into other allocations and other investments. So there's that. Our average percent to return, of course, from all these that we have here is 25%. And of course, it's skewed due to the recent purchases that we have. But if you noticed with the percent return, so we can see that all our purchases in the beginning of the time are close to what the total return is from AMZY, right? So AMZY's total return is 60.16%. Nope, wrong page. And our returns is 44.38, 44.47, 50, 51, 49.68. Of course, it would be a lot easier if I knew where those dividends, so these $286.35 of dividends went to. Of course, like I said, I can't look at all of that data. It would have been easier if I was just dripping back in. Then that data would be a lot easier to calculate. But I'm not dripping back in. At least no longer am dripping back in. So therefore, it's a little bit more difficult for me to understand where this total percent return went to. Most likely, those 30 shares that I purchased initially are probably at a 60.16% return, assuming I was taking those dividends and reinvesting them back in. But of course, there's no way for me to really know unless I went through all of my history and all of my purchases and everything of that sort. But we're not going to do all of that. So total percent return, just on a basic level, is you can see in the beginning of when I started purchasing, so in the beginning of 2023 or the end of 2023, in the beginning of starting to purchase into this fund, most of them are around above the 40% range. Of course, even if we look, when were these purchased? These were purchased at the end of 2023. So right here, everything that's in 2023 is above 37%. Right? So 37, 41, 50, 49, 51, 50, 44, 44% return. So all these are profitable. Actually, all of them are profitable at the moment at what we're sitting in the market. Even the recent purchase is a profitable 0.94%. As you can see, we did have this little dip over here. What time frame was this? This was during June 17th to July 15th of 2024. And we had a 13.24%, 10.13%, 10.18%, and 20.3% return. The lowest we've had from when it comes to time, and that is because, as you can see, the average cost of those shares is actually pretty high, because right after that it dipped down to $18. And what's the difference in time frame? It's only a couple months in time frame. So as you can see, we were buying high at 21, 21, 21, and then it dipped to 18. That's why if you take a look at this part of the chart, you can see that where it dipped, we had a 24% return, 23% return, and a 20% return. So we bought these four baskets of shares a little bit too in a bad time when it was at highs. And then we bought these at a good time when they were at lows, and we got a 20% return, 23% return, 24% return. So yeah, quite nice to see. And of course, we also have the recent purchases where they're sitting at 9%, 4%, single digits so far. But in general, looking over this data, of course, I know this video is quite long, a lot of me speaking and saying a bunch of numbers and percents and dollars, but this is just to demonstrate how your returns could look like if you purchase some of these funds. If it's YieldMax, Roundhill, any of these funds, if you're not tracking them yourself personally, of course, I wasn't tracking them myself personally, so I went back and I started tracking them. I'm currently tracking AMZY as I'm investing into it, and I'll continue to track AMZY and continue to track all these other funds when I purchase them. So if I make another AMZY purchase, it'll be added to this chart, and all the dividends will be updated. So it's a little bit easier for me to understand how these are going. But if you're someone who's looking to invest into AMZY or any other YieldMax ETF or any Roundhill ETF or any fund that's similar to this, these are the type of returns you could see, at least for AMZY, right? So we could see that in those in the past, almost, what is that, a little under 2 years, right? September will be 2 years. You've returned 44, 50% return on those purchases I made back in 2023. And even with the recent purchases, we're at double digits, right? So in the 2024s, we're at double digits with the 2024 purchases. And if we take a look at the recent purchases, we're getting close to double digits, right? So this was purchased when? This was still 2024. This is 2025. So yeah, we're at 8.86% from purchases now in 2025. So if it continues to trend upwards, these should be in double digits soon, as well as these up here. So overall, I'll say a pretty good return, right? I'll take it. A lot of people say that 31.5% return is not that great from these funds, especially when on their website they boast that they have a 47.82% return. But also take a look at the chart. On the chart, it's a 60.16% return if you went all in at that one time. So if you bought September 5th, 2023, you would have a 60.16% return, assuming you reinvested back in. I didn't reinvest back in, as you guys saw, for a couple months. There was like 4 or 5 month time frames twice where I wasn't reinvesting back in. I wasn't buying with cash, and those dividends were going into other assets, right? I was diversifying into other assets. So therefore, it makes sense why I have a 31.5% return. So for having an asset that I was taking money out of, right? Taking the money and the dividends out of, not reinvesting back in for 4 to 5 month time frame twice, and still having a positive 31.5% return, I would say is pretty good. Especially accounting for the fact that, say we go back in time and we look at the losses, right? So you have $162.60 in losses. Technically, you could just replace those $162.60 in dividends, be break even, and take out $286.35. Let's take a look at this. $2,000 purchases. You lost $215 and $202. You made $724 from each. Replace those $215, replace that $202, and you have $509 and $522 in profit that you could take out, and you'll be break even at this time, right? After almost a little under 2 years, right? So you're able to take cash out and still be break even if you want to. You could still take cash out, and of course you also have to pay taxes, but we're not going to go that far. There's tax and everything involved as well, and there's other people that track that stuff, but you could take cash out like I did. I took cash out for multiple times, multiple time frames for a couple months, and we still are ending up profit at the end of the year. So I'm just saying, or not at the end of the time frame that we're currently recording. So 31.5% in a little under 2 years, while taking that cash out and using it for other things such as other investments like YMAX, QDTE. YMAX and QDT were funded by those single stock ETFs like Tesla, AMZY, Apple, GUI. It was funded by that. It was also funded by these funds also funded my option strategy. That was also funded by these dividends that I'm earning and currently earning. So that's how I'm funding my portfolio. That's how I'm diversifying my portfolio. So just gotta say, 31.5% is pretty damn good, in my opinion. Of course, everybody can have their own opinion, but from seeing all the data and putting all the data together and showing it to you guys, of course, seeing that we had time frames like this where we on 3/8/2024 to 6/17/2024, there was no reinvestments from, which is this other one, from December 19th, 2024 to May 20th of 2025, we had no reinvestments. So for 5 months and 3 months, we had no reinvestments, no purchases, and we still came out profitable at 31.5%. So we had, what is that? We had 8 months of pure cash going into our portfolio. And that's probably around, maybe a little at like $1,000 maybe that we took out. I don't know, probably a little less, more. But $1,000 that we took out in cash, and we're still coming out with 31.5%. Now imagine we put those $1,000 back in, right? Say this is actually like around $3,000, right? We could just change it really quick. Let's go ahead and just put 3, right? Oh, I can't see. That's a 40.3% return. 40.3% return is how much it would be if it was $3,000, right? So it could be more, it could be less, but still pretty good return. So that is the video. Just wanted to make this for you guys so you guys see better understand how I've been investing into AMZY specifically. I know I made a video on Tesla on the 1 year of invested into Tesla, and a lot of people said that my data was off. So I was like, hey, let me put together something where the data is a little bit more accurate, and therefore I put this together. And of course, it's not only for you guys, but for me as well, so I could track my own shares and my own returns and better understand these investments. And of course, like I said, I'm doing the same thing with AMZY, with Maggie. I'm going to be doing the same thing with AMZY, so the next video should be on AMZY because I'm going to be putting together a sheet for that as well. I'll also be tweaking them a little bit, adding more data as I think about it and then want to add, right? So if there's some data I want to add, I'm going to be adding that as well. I'm going to be tweaking how I input the dividends so it's a little easier to calculate, and so on and so on. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And that has been me, Dennis, and that has been my investment into AMZY for the past a little under 2 years. I've returned 31.5%, and that's with money being taken out, sometimes being reinvested in, sometimes not. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next video for the AMZY breakdown and how that fund has performed in my portfolio. So thanks so much. I'll see you guys next week.